The vast emptiness of space stretched before the USS horizon like an endless black canvas, punctuated by distant starlight. Captain David Kim gripped the command console, his fingers tracing the intricate holographic displays that flickered with incoming data. The ship's hull hummed with a subtle energy, a testament to humanity's most advanced deep space exploration technology. Outside the reinforced viewing window, a strange nebula swirled, deep purple mixed with electric blue tendrils that seemed to dance with an almost living quality. Young Lieutenant Anna Park adjusted the ship's sensors, her breath catching as unexpected readings began to emerge. "Captain," she called out, her voice a mix of excitement and caution, "we're picking up something unusual in the third quadrant." David moved closer, his eyes narrowing. Years of space exploration had taught him that unusual often meant dangerous. The Horizon wasn't just another research vessel, it was humanity's latest attempt to push beyond known boundaries. The ship's AI assistant, nicknamed Aria, projected a holographic representation of the anomalous readings. Crystalline structures began to form in the display, geometric patterns that didn't match any known stellar phenomenon. Something was out there, watching, waiting. Suddenly, a massive energy surge rippled through the ship's systems. The external scanners went wild, capturing fragments of what seemed like technological signatures from multiple unknown sources. These weren't random energy waves, they were deliberate communications. "Prepare defensive protocols," David commanded, his voice calm but firm. The crew knew exactly what to do. Specialized defense shields activated, creating a protective bubble around the horizon. Military-grade pulse cannons emerged from hidden compartments, ready to respond to any potential threat. But this wasn't going to be a typical encounter. A series of intricate light patterns began surrounding the ship. Not threatening, but communicative. They were complex mathematical sequences that seemed to pulse with an intelligent rhythm. Lieutenant Park's fingers danced across her console, attempting to decode the mysterious signals. "It's a language," she whispered, "but not like anything we've ever seen before." The ship's xenolinguistic algorithms started processing the patterns. Complex mathematical equations transformed into what seemed like a greeting, an invitation from something beyond human comprehension. Outside, strange crystalline vessels began materializing. They weren't solid metal like human spacecraft, but seemed to be living organisms, technological beings that shifted and transformed with each movement. Bioluminescent patterns ran across their surfaces, creating a mesmerizing display of light and motion. David realized they were experiencing first contact, not through traditional military confrontation, but through an intricate dance of technology and communication. These weren't just aliens. They were potentially a completely different form of intelligent life. Aria's voice cut through the tension. "Captain, incoming transmission decoding. Preliminary analysis suggests non-aggressive communication protocol." The bridge crew watched, in collective amazement, as geometric shapes transformed into what appeared to be an intricate welcome message. It wasn't just communication. It was an invitation to understand something profound about the universe. Lieutenant Park's hands were shaking slightly. "They're showing us something about quantum entanglement that our scientists have only theorized about. These beings, they're offering knowledge." David knew this moment would change everything. Humanity wasn't just exploring space, they were being welcomed into a larger cosmic community. The fear of alien invasion dissolved, replaced by an overwhelming sense of wonder and possibility. As the crystalline vessels continued their mesmerizing dance around the horizon, David understood that this wasn't just a mission of exploration. This was the beginning of humanity's true cosmic journey. The universe had just opened its first genuine conversation with Earth. End of Part 1. Narrative complexity, high engagement alien interaction, mysterious but peaceful. Technical detail, scientifically. Plausible emotional tone, Wonder and the Zorn invasion fleet emerged from quantum fold space like a swarm of metallic locusts, their ship configurations resembling aggressive geometric predators. Commander Eric Lee watched the tactical displays, his hands steady despite the approaching threat. Massive battleships stretched across multiple light years, their dark titanium hulls absorbing and reflecting starlight in menacing patterns. Each vessel carried thousands of multi-limbed warriors, bred for centuries in harsh combat environments. The Zorn believed technological superiority guaranteed absolute victory. They were about to learn a painful lesson about human resilience. "Incoming transmission," Lieutenant June Park announced, her voice calm despite the massive fleet surrounding Earth's outer colony defenses. The alien communication crackled with aggressive frequencies, a standard intimidation protocol designed to break potential resistance. The Zorn broadcast was clear. "Surrender your planetary resources. Resistance is mathematically impossible." Commander Lee allowed himself a slight smile. Mathematical impossibility was humanity's specialty. Earth's defensive networks weren't just technological systems, they were living adaptive organisms. Quantum-linked defense platforms began reconfiguring themselves, absorbing incoming threat data and generating counter-strategies in milliseconds. Unlike rigid alien military structures, human systems could learn, adapt and transform faster than any predictive algorithm. The first wave of Zorn attack drones approached, their plasma cannons charged and ready to obliterate colony defenses. What happened next would become a legendary moment in human military history. Instead of direct confrontation, the Human Defense Network created an elaborate holographic deception. Multiple false planetary signatures appeared, each looking like a potential primary target. The Zorn fleet split, their computational logic unable to distinguish real from simulated targets. Commander Lee's tactical team had transformed warfare into a psychological chess match. Smaller human interceptor squadrons, nicknamed Fireflies for their agile maneuverability, began their dance. These weren't traditional spacecraft, but hybrid biomechanical units that could think, react, and predict enemy movements with unprecedented precision. Pilot Karen Choi led her squadron with instinctive brilliance. Where alien pilots followed strict computational paths, humans introduced randomness, an unpredictable element that completely disrupted Zorn's strategic calculations. "Target acquired," she whispered, her neural link with the spacecraft creating a seamless connection. Her Firefly unit twisted through impossible angles, its quantum-adaptive shield absorbing and redirecting massive energy attacks. The Zorn fleet watched in growing confusion. Their entire military doctrine was built on predictive warfare, calculating outcomes with mathematical precision. Humans introduced an element of pure, beautiful chaos. Massive energy weapons that should have obliterated entire colony sections suddenly found themselves targeting empty space. Human defenders weren't just blocking attacks. They were turning the invasion's own momentum against itself. Underground colony defense systems, hidden beneath kilometers of reinforced terrain, began emerging. These weren't traditional weapons, but adaptive environmental manipulators that could transform entire planetary landscapes within seconds. Mountain ranges shifted. Electromagnetic fields warped. Entire geological structures became defensive weapons. The Zorn realized they weren't fighting a traditional military. They were battling a living, thinking planetary organism that happened to have humans as its neural network. Commander Lee's final strategic move was elegant in its simplicity. By creating multiple simultaneous threat scenarios, he forced the Zorn fleet into a computational lockdown. Their own military algorithms became their primary weakness. Tactical retreat recommended, the Zorn fleet's Central Intelligence suddenly announced, a first in their centuries-long conquest history. Humanity had just demonstrated that technological superiority meant nothing against adaptive intelligence, psychological flexibility, and an absolutely fearless approach to survival. As the last Zorn ships disappeared into quantum-fold space, a strange silence settled over the colony. They hadn't just defended themselves, they had rewritten the entire concept of interstellar conflict. The universe was about to learn that humans were nobody's easy target. End of Part 2. Narrative complexity. High-intensity warfare alien interaction. Strategic confrontation technical detail. Advanced defensive scenarios. Emotional tone. Resilience and tactical brilliance. Would you like me to proceed with the next part of the story? The research facility nestled deep within the lunar research complex hummed with an electric intensity. Sergeant Michael Choi stood before a holographic display, his fingers tracing complex battle simulations that defied traditional military logic. Around him, a team of young researchers and military strategists represented humanity's most innovative minds. They weren't just soldiers or scientists, they were architects of a revolutionary approach to warfare that would change everything. The Human Adaptation Protocol wasn't just a strategy, it was a complete reimagining of combat philosophy. Traditional military systems relied on predetermined algorithms and rigid response patterns. Humanity's approach was different. They studied every conflict, every potential scenario, creating a living, breathing, tactical intelligence that could transform faster than any computer could predict. Outside the facility's reinforced windows, experimental combat drones moved like liquid metal, changing shape and configuration with each passing second. These weren't machines, they were living extensions of human tactical thinking. A massive holographic projection showed multiple conflict scenarios. Each simulation began traditionally, but quickly dissolved into something entirely unexpected. Where alien military systems saw straight lines, humans introduced complex, unpredictable curves. "Watch this," Michael told his team, highlighting a specific simulation segment. In the hologram, a standard defensive formation suddenly collapsed, not through brute force, but through a series of psychological manipulations. The defending units didn't just resist, they transformed the entire battlefield's emotional and tactical landscape. Young Lieutenant Yoon Park brought up additional data. Centuries of human conflict, from ancient terrestrial wars to recent space skirmishes, had created a unique evolutionary approach to survival. Humans didn't just fight, they adapted, learned, and transformed in real time. The experimental drones outside began a complex dance. They weren't following pre-programmed instructions, but responding to a collective intelligence that understood conflict as a fluid, living organism. One drone would suddenly split into multiple smaller units, each capable of independent decision-making. Another would camouflage itself, becoming indistinguishable from the surrounding environment. A third would use complex sonic frequencies to disrupt enemy communication networks. "We're not building weapons," Michael explained to his team. "We're creating living systems of tactical intelligence." The lunar facility wasn't just a military research center. It was humanity's evolutionary response to interstellar threats. Every simulation, every experiment pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible in combat strategy. Quantum-linked neural networks allowed instantaneous communication between combat units. A soldier's thought could become a tactical movement, faster than traditional communication systems could process. The line between human intelligence and technological adaptation was becoming beautifully blurred. Experimental biotechnology meant combat units could heal themselves, adapt to new environments, and make complex decisions without centralized command. Traditional military hierarchies were being completely dismantled. A massive holographic projection showed previous alien invasion attempts. Each was systematically broken down, analyzed, and transformed into a learning opportunity. Humanity wasn't just defending. They were evolving in real time. The key, Michael told a group of young cadets, is understanding that conflict is more about psychology than technology. We don't just fight. We understand, we adapt, we transform. The drones outside continued their mesmerizing dance. Each movement was a poem of tactical brilliance, unpredictable, fluid, alive. Alien military strategists watching these developments would find themselves facing a fundamental challenge. How do you fight an enemy that doesn't just resist, but continuously reimagines the very concept of resistance? The Lunar Research Complex represented humanity's most powerful weapon, the ability to look at a challenge and see not just a problem, but an opportunity for creative transformation. As night fell over the lunar landscape, the experimental drones continued their training, silent, adaptive, ready. The universe was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons, but in its limitless capacity for reinvention. End of Part 3. Narrative complexity, tactical innovation, technological exploration, advanced adaptive systems, emotional tone, intellectual excitement, and potential strategic focus. Evolutionary combat. Philosophy. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story? The communication research vessel drifted silently through the Epsilon sector, its sleek hull designed to be virtually undetectable. Lieutenant Sarah Kim sat at the primary analysis station, her fingers dancing across quantum-sensitive interfaces that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. Her team wasn't just collecting data. They were hunting for something far more complex than traditional intelligence gathering. They were mapping the psychological vulnerabilities of alien civilizations. The massive holographic displays around her showed intricate networks of behavioral patterns, communication frequencies, and emotional response algorithms. Each alien species had a unique psychological fingerprint, and humans were becoming masters at reading those hidden languages. A distant alien communication burst flickered across the screens. Where others would see random energy signals, Sarah saw a complex emotional landscape. The transmission wasn't just information, it was a window into an entire civilization's collective consciousness. "Got something," she whispered to her colleague, Daniel Park. The research vessel's advanced neural link systems began processing the communication. Unlike traditional translation methods, this was a complete psychological deconstruction. They weren't just understanding words, they were understanding the emotional architecture behind those words. Alien communication networks had always assumed their systems were impenetrable. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Specialized quantum decoding modules began breaking down the communication layers. Each frequency revealed more than just language. It exposed cultural fears, collective anxieties, and hidden psychological pressure points. The Galactic Confederation's communication networks had become increasingly complex. Believing their encryption methods were unbreakable, humanity's approach was different. Instead of fighting technology, they understood the emotional software driving that technology. Outside the vessel's reinforced windows, strange energy patterns danced, remnants of alien communication networks that thought they were operating in complete secrecy. Sarah's team was turning those networks inside out, revealing their most intimate vulnerabilities. "Watch this," Daniel muttered, activating a complex decryption sequence. The holographic displays exploded with information. Entire communication networks began revealing their hidden structures, not through brute force hacking, but through a profound understanding of psychological dynamics. Humanity had discovered something revolutionary. Every communication system carried an emotional signature. By understanding that signature, they could essentially read between the lines of any transmission. The research vessel wasn't just collecting information, it was conducting the most sophisticated psychological warfare in galactic history. Alien military strategists would later describe these human communication techniques as emotional infiltration, a method of understanding an enemy so completely that traditional conflict became unnecessary. Specialized neural link algorithms could now predict alien behavioral responses with terrifying accuracy. A single communication burst could reveal more about a civilization's potential actions than years of traditional intelligence gathering. The vessel's systems continued their silent dance, transforming complex energy signals into readable emotional landscapes. Each transmission became a map of potential conflicts, hidden motivations, and unexpressed collective fears. "We're not just listening," Sarah explained to her team. "We're understanding the very language of psychological vulnerability." Alien civilizations had spent centuries building complex communication networks, believing technology could protect their most intimate secrets. Humanity was proving that true security wasn't about technological barriers. It was about understanding the emotional software driving those barriers. The research vessel continued its silent journey, a ghost ship carrying the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy, profound, empathetic understanding. As distant alien communication networks continued their complex dance, they remained blissfully unaware that humans were reading their most intimate, emotional languages. The universe was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its weapons, but in its ability to truly understand the complex emotional landscapes that drive conflict. End of Part 4. Narrative complexity, psychological infiltration, technological exploration, emotional intelligence, systems, emotional tone, intellectual. Intrigue, strategic focus, communication, vulnerability. Would you like me to proceed with the final part of the story? The massive Galactic Confederation chamber fell silent as Commander David Park stepped forward. Representatives from thousands of alien civilizations watched with a mixture of fear, respect, and barely contained curiosity. This wasn't just another diplomatic meeting. This was humanity's moment of cosmic recognition. Holographic displays surrounded the chamber, showing humanity's remarkable journey from a single planetary species to a galactic power that had rewritten the fundamental rules of interstellar interaction. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with the energy of accumulated knowledge. Crystalline communication interfaces flickered with complex data streams, capturing every nuanced moment of the historic gathering. "We are not conquerors," David began, his voice calm and measured. "We are students of the universe." Behind him, a massive holographic projection began to unfold, a stunning visual representation of humanity's adaptive journey. It showed how a species from a small blue planet had transformed from primitive technological beginnings to a civilization that could challenge and reimagine galactic dynamics. Alien representatives from the Zorn Imperium, who had once attempted to destroy human colonies, now sat in stunned silence. Their previous military superiority had been completely dismantled by human adaptability. The Quantum Collective, a hyper-intelligent network of silicon-based life forms, had spent decades analyzing human behavior. Their conclusion was both terrifying and fascinating. Humans were the most unpredictable evolutionary force in the known universe. Humanity's strength, a translucent holographic projection explained, is not in technological superiority, but in its capacity for continuous reinvention. Each alien delegation received a specialized data packet, a comprehensive overview of human potential. It wasn't a military report or a technological assessment. It was a profound exploration of human psychological adaptability. The chamber's environmental systems seemed to adjust, creating a unique atmospheric resonance that reflected the emotional complexity of the moment. Subtle quantum frequencies carried the weight of collective understanding. Diplomatic protocols dissolved. This wasn't a traditional meeting. It was a cosmic revelation. Representatives from the crystalline networks of Andromeda approached David, their translucent bodies shifting with complex emotional signatures. They weren't just listening, they were experiencing humanity's unique evolutionary potential. "You have transformed conflict from a physical confrontation to a psychological dance," one representative communicated through intricate light patterns. The holographic displays continued their mesmerizing dance. They showed humanity's journey from primitive terrestrial conflicts to complex interstellar adaptations. Each moment revealed a species that didn't just survive, but fundamentally reimagined survival itself. Young human diplomats standing behind David represented a new generation. They weren't warriors or traditional diplomats. They were living bridges between different cosmic civilizations, carrying within them the potential for unprecedented understanding. The Galactic Confederation's central AI began processing the massive data influx. For the first time in its existence, it encountered a species that couldn't be mathematically predicted or strategically contained. Humanity is not a threat, the central AI concluded, its massive quantum processors working overtime. Humanity is an opportunity for collective evolution. Outside the chamber, massive space platforms adjusted their configurations. Defensive systems that had been prepared for potential human conflict now recalibrated, recognizing a fundamentally different approach to interstellar relationship. David Park stood as a representative of something far greater than a single species. He represented potential, the remarkable human capacity to look at a challenge and see not just a problem, but a pathway to something extraordinary. The chamber's quantum-linked communication networks began transmitting the meeting's details across multiple star systems. Every transmission carried a fundamental message. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors but as cosmic explorers. As the meeting concluded, the alien representatives understood a profound truth. The most dangerous weapon in the universe wasn't technology or military might, it was the human ability to continuously reimagine what was possible. End of Part 5. Narrative complexity, diplomatic transformation, cosmic exploration, evolutionary potential, emotional tone, profound possibility, strategic, focus, collective understanding. Would you like me to provide an epilogue or additional context for the story? Anticipation. Would you like me to continue with the next part of the story?